Okay, so in this set of notes, we're going to build what I would refer to as a frequency histogram, or sometimes just called a histogram. Okay, so a histogram is something that basically is going to look a lot like a bar graph, but the bars are going to be next to each other and are going to represent frequencies over classes. So what would happen in a histogram is you would have a value here, which would be the lower bound for a class, and here would be the upper bound for that class. So these are your values along the what we would typically call the x-axis, and the y-axis here represents frequencies. So this is kind of a way of representing like your frequency distribution, but as a picture. So the height of these tells you how many values are between this lower bound and this upper bound. So the taller a bar in a histogram is, the more frequently it occurs. Now, histograms only work with quantitative data. Okay, and in this course, all of your histograms are going to be done using the TI-84 calculator. Now, in your notes, I have an example, and I work through a sample set of data. So I'm going to pull up that so you can see what I'm talking about, and we'll get a little bit better picture. Okay, so right now you're looking at the notes that would correspond to this section of our unit, and you'll see that here we've given a set of data, 30 values, that we're going to create a histogram out of. If you kind of scroll down a little bit, you'll see that the first thing I did was actually created a frequency distribution for that data. So here's the classes, and here's how frequently they are. So they're a little bit bunched up between 54 and 75. So what we're going to look at next is how would you use the calculator to do this. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and enter that data set into my TI-84 calculator. So I'm going to turn it on, and then I'm going to hit the Stat button and Edit. So into list 1, I'm going to put those data points. Okay, so it looks like I have 30 data points. I feel fairly confident in the accuracy in which I entered these. Okay, so I've entered them into list 1 in the calculator. They're all there. Now, what I want to do is I want to turn on a plot. So the way I get to this is I hit the second and then mode, puts me back to the main screen of my calculator. That's always how I do that. And then I'm going to hit second y equals. Okay, so the little blue text above the y equals says stat plot. And I'm going to hit number 1. So I'm going to turn on the first plot. And then what I want to do is configure this to plot a histogram. So I have to turn the plot on. And the histogram one is this guy that looks like a little bit of a bar graph. And I hit enter there. It's already set to work with list 1. I want to keep the frequency at 1. Okay, so that's pretty good. So I'm going to go back to the main screen. I'm going to hit second mode. And I'm going to hit my zoom button, which I'm going to look for the one that talks about statistics, which is actually number 9, the zoom stat. And when I hit enter, it will produce a histogram for me. And you'll notice that the values, the heights of these things actually correspond to the heights of the frequencies that are in my chart. So what I do here, if I want to explore this, I can hit the trace button. And the trace button has my little blinker here on that first one, right? And it says these are values between 46 and 53 and a third, and that there are 2 values there. Okay. Then I have one with 7, one with 7, one with 9, one with 3, one with 1, one with 1. Okay, so it gives me that, like, this is the bar between 90 and 97, and that I have 1 value in between there. So this has successfully created the histogram that I need. So this should give you a good step-by-step set of directions. You will not have to create one of these by hand in this course. Frequency histograms are tools that usually represent data frequency by classes. It represents frequencies as bars whose height is the frequency and whose width is the width of the class. All right, thank you.